Unbiased Reveal channel. Welcome to the deep dive. I'm Peter, and today we're really getting into the deep end, the final frontier, maybe, of financial wisdom.
And I'm Jenny. Yeah, this deep dive is, well, it's all about the raw late life operating manual from Charlie Munger. We're focusing it entirely on those of you, past the age of 50.
Okay.
Our mission today is to really pull out the core insight. Munger basically argues that once you hit midlife, the whole game changes. Completely.
Right.
Investment. It's no longer about aggressive growth or hunting down those secret 10-baggers, stocks that give you 10 times your money. It shifts. It becomes all about survival.
Survival.
Yeah, survival played by avoiding just colossal mistakes. Because for Munger, not losing actually becomes the ultimate way to win.
Wow, okay. That's pretty blunt. It's unflinching wisdom, really. We definitely need to unpack this.
We do.
And before we dive into the details of this, radical defensive strategy from Munger, just a quick reminder for everyone listening. You can find the best crypto referral link right there in the description below.
Good point.
So, Jenny, Munger's opening shot here
Ah.
it's almost insulting, isn't it? He says, you don't need to get smarter after 50. You just need to stop being stupid.
Yeah.
And he actually finds that stopping stupidity is, quote, almost impossible for highly successful people. Why is he so pessimistic about that?
Well, it's interesting. He grounds it in behavioral psychology, not really intellect. Munger noticed that successful people, often these high-earning professionals, they develop this thing he calls windfall anxiety.
Windfall anxiety. What's that?
It's like they look around, they see friends or colleagues making, huge gains in flashy new markets. Maybe it's crypto, maybe speculative tech stocks, whatever's hot, and they feel cheated, left out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Like they make the boat, the golden ticket.
Exactly that. So their intelligence, the very thing that got them successfully to age 50, it suddenly gets overruled by this new kind of desperate emotion, FOMO, fear of missing out.
Right, FOMO.
Yeah,
Blast.
it is. And they start mistaking hyperactivity for actual productivity. They should be conserving capital, conserving energy, but instead they start chasing these really complex trends they barely understand. They're desperate for a quick double maybe. And this hunt for the windfall, that's precisely what Munger is warning against. They start playing offense, going for the big score when really they desperately need to shift to playing defense.
And he doesn't just say this lightly. He backs it up with some, incredibly unforgiving math. This is what you call golden sentence one, and it really is a shock to the system. He says, youthful mistakes are tuition.
Right?
Meaning, okay, they're expensive lessons, but you have time, you can recover. The mistakes made after 50, those are bankruptcy.
Yeah, that math, Peter, it's the absolute heart of his whole philosophy here. Look, in your 20s, if you lose, say, 50% of your savings, okay, it hurts, but you've got maybe 40 years of earning potential, 40 years of compounding ahead to bail you out. It's, like you said, tuition. You learn.
Okay.
But lose 50% when you're 55.
Yeah.
Now you need a 100% return just to get back to where you started. And crucially, you likely don't have the decades needed to earn that 100% back or, replace that lost capital through sheer work.
The time isn't there.
The compounding clock has basically run out on you for that kind of recovery. You've effectively, potentially halved your remaining life plan with one big mistake.
Wow. The clock is ticking against the rescue mission, not for it. So, okay, if the market itself isn't the main enemy and inflation is just, always there, a nuisance, what is the villain here? What's taking out these successful older people?
Munger points the finger right back at us, at the investor. He says the real enemy is your own unwillingness to accept mediocrity.
Unwillingness to accept mediocrity.
Yeah. The panic isn't really driven by poor returns in an absolute sense. It's driven by the perception that you're falling behind your neighbors, your friends, whoever. It's that relative comparison.
Keeping up with the Joneses, financially speaking.
Exactly. And this emotional pressure, it pushes people into really high-risk strategies. They start seeking aggressive growth when their only strategy, according to Munger, should be defense, stability, maximizing endurance, staying power.
So you're not trying to be the smartest anymore.
No, you're trying to be the last one standing. That's the goal.
Okay, that shift from offense to pure survival.
Yeah.
It leads us right into what Munger sees as maybe the single most dangerous trap. Debt.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't just see it as a financial tool, does he? He calls it poison, like literally poison.
He really does. And he's not just talking about, running up your credit cards, though that's bad too. He means leverage. Borrowing money specifically to magnify your investment returns.
Right.
And he uses that really powerful analogy, you probably know it. Debt is like alcohol.
Hmm.
When you take it on, you feel smarter, right? You
Yeah.
feel braver. You feel like some kind of financial genius who's cleverly maximizing potential returns.
Munger warns it's a delusion, isn't it?
Yeah,
A delusion of competence. Reality, he always says, delivers the hangover.
always.
But here, okay, let me just push back a tiny bit on Munger's extremity here. He grew up during the Great Depression in the 1930s. That was a time of absolutely catastrophic debt defaults. So is a completely zero debt strategy even, like, practical today? I mean, doesn't buying a regular family home almost require some leverage for most people?
That is the essential tension, absolutely. And you're right, Munger's view is definitely colored by that extreme history. He saw firsthand how leverage could turn just momentary bad luck, a market dip, into total, complete ruin.
Hmm.
For him, the risk of even one single leveraged mistake becomes completely unacceptable later in life. He literally saw men who were bragging about their leverage gains one week lose their homes the next week. He saw the whole system as just fundamentally brittle.
So the danger isn't just that debt magnifies the wins, but critically, it magnifies the errors. It turns a maybe manageable loss into an absolute catastrophe.
Precisely, and it goes beyond just the financial risk, too. Munger argues, quite strongly, that debt destroys your most valuable asset in late life, your rationality, your peace of mind.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're burdened by significant debt, every little market dip makes you anxious, right? Every tick up in inflation makes you feel desperate. You're no longer making decisions based on cool, rational analysis. You're acting out of pure survival instinct, just trying to maybe avoid a margin call or foreclosure.
Yeah, okay.
So he poses that critical question. Why would you trade guaranteed peace of mind, which is priceless after 50, for a potentially increased but highly uncertain leveraged return?
And the answer connects back to his core life principle, doesn't it? Slower survival is better than quicker death. Basically, trade the unnecessary financial drama for stability.
You got it. And that stability, that peace of mind, it also helps you weather the other great emotional storm he warns about, envy.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that emotional virus. Munger calls jealousy the absolute most foolish of all the vices. Why? Because, quote, it offers no fun.
It's perfectly put, isn't it? Greed, okay, at least greed might give you a short-term thrill, a shopping spree. But envy, it just makes you miserable watching someone else succeed. There's literally no upside.
None at all.
And it destroys perfectly good, rational entitlement strategies. Munger told this great anecdote about a 55-year-old lawyer. Successful guy, stable career, nice home, had a solid, predictable retirement plan built on, good quality blue chip stocks. Boring, but solid.
Sounds sensible.
Totally sensible. But he kept watching his friends, his colleagues, bragging constantly about their, tenfold returns in speculative internet stocks or whatever the bubble was at the time.
And this pressure, this feeling of being, I don't know, an old fogey, just watching the parade go by,
Yeah.
it eventually got to him.
It drove him completely off course. He abandoned his established, stable, rational plan. He sold his boring, reliable dividend stocks and panic bought into concepts he didn't really understand in businesses with lots of promise but zero earnings.
Oh, no.
Yeah. The result? Predictable. His account got cut basically in half almost overnight when that particular speculative bubble popped. And the consequence was he had to postpone his retirement by 10 years, just working to climb back to where he started.
Wow.
And Munger emphasizes, this wasn't a failure of IQ. The lawyer was smart. It was a failure of emotional discipline, triggered entirely by envy.
It really reminds me of how Munger and Buffett themselves were kind of mocked back in the late 90s, right?
Yeah.
For sticking to, quote, boring industries, insurance, chocolate utilities, while all the Silicon Valley geniuses were making billions in the dot-com boom.
Oh, they were called dinosaurs. Absolutely ridiculed for sticking to old-fashioned value investing principles. But guess what? They sailed through the 2000 crash pretty much completely unscathed. Why? Because they stuck rigidly within their circle of competence and just ignored the peer pressure, ignored the envy.
Which brings us right to golden sentence 2.
Exactly. Investment's goal is not to beat others, but to avoid losing yourself. Your benchmark isn't your neighbor's portfolio. It's your own retirement goal, your own peace of mind.
Okay. And connected to this emotional discipline, there's that other equally costly error he warns about, selling your winners way too early. So you manage to avoid the ruin of envy, great, but then you commit this, crime of short-sightedness.
Yeah, this is a mistake Munger actually admitted he made himself sometimes. He regretted selling several really great companies just because he felt he'd made, enough profit at that moment. Think about investors back in the, say, 1970s or 80s. They bought stable, durable stocks, maybe Coca-Cola, maybe some big consumer brands. Many saw their investment double, maybe triple, pretty quickly. And what did they do?
They cashed out to lock in the profits. Felt smart doing it.
Exactly. They felt really smart grabbing that 50% or 100% gain in just a few years. But in doing that, Munger would say they committed a financial crime against their future selves
How so?
because they permanently, drastically shortened the lifespan of compounding on that money. They didn't wait for the truly massive returns, the ones that can go 50x, even 100x, over decades, returns that are achieved purely by letting a great business keep running and compounding.
So selling a winner just because the price went up, not because the business changed.
It is incredibly short-sighted. It permanently shrinks the potential size of your retirement nest egg. And the key is, after 50, you just don't have the time runway to grow another winner of that same magnitude again. You cut off its potential too soon.
Okay, that inability to stay disciplined, whether it's resisting envy or resisting that urge to sell winners, it really highlights this critical structural shift Munger wants people to make after 50. The move from being a professional to being an owner.
Yes, this might be the most actionable piece of advice Munger gives, I think. A professional could be a lawyer, a doctor, a high-paid consultant, whatever they fundamentally sell their time and their effort.
Right. Income depends on working.
Exactly. Their income stream essentially dies the moment they stop working. They're trapped in that effort for income cycle.
Whereas an owner.
An owner uses their capital to acquire assets, things like company shares, rental properties, durable businesses, assets that generate cash flow whether the owner is physically present and working or not.
So after 50, when your energy and maybe even your available time start to naturally decline, relying solely on selling your effort becomes a fundamentally flawed strategy. The source of income itself needs to change.
It must change. Munger gives that fantastic contrast, remember. The successful doctor who just quietly bought boring dividend stocks his whole career and ended up living a really dignified, peaceful life in retirement,
Right.
versus the brilliant, high IQ entrepreneur who chased complex, leveraged real estate deals and ended up bankrupt at 57.
Wow.
The difference wasn't IQ, it wasn't work ethic, it was the discipline of ownership versus the trap of being purely a professional selling time. The doctor acquired assets that worked while he slept. The entrepreneur relied on constant deals and leverage.
And making that shift really demands what Munger calls ruthless self-awareness, knowing your circle of competence, which isn't about knowing everything.
No, not at all. It's about knowing with certainty what you don't know, what's outside your circle. Look at Munger and Buffett again. They famously avoided entire industries that were complex, constantly changing, or required huge amounts of capital just to stay competitive. Think technology, airlines, currency speculation.
They just said no.
They just admitted straightforwardly, we don't understand it well enough, so we won't play. They only invested where they felt they could confidently predict the basic economics, the cash flows, maybe a decade out. Simple, understandable businesses.
So the big takeaway here, especially for mid to late life, is incredibly powerful. Admitting ignorance is infinitely cheaper than pretending to be smart.
Absolutely. You have to reject that illusion of competence, especially when the stakes, your retirement, your stability are so incredibly high that humility is what saves you.
Yeah, so if we boil down Munger's late life strategy, it really seems to be all about resilience, doesn't it? Not about being clever or predicting the future.
Well, exactly. You don't need a crystal ball to predict market storms, because you can't anyway. You just need to make sure your financial house is built of solid brick, ready to withstand whatever comes along.
And his path to that kind of financial longevity, that wealth, seems built on the sort of trinity of rejections.
That's a good way to put it.
First, reject debt, because it destroys your rationality and your freedom. Second, reject drama, meaning all that emotional volatility that comes from chasing trends and comparing yourself to others. And finally, maybe controversially, reject stupid people, or at least reject their influence, because their contagious bad habits like envy and speculation can drag you down into their ruin.
That really sums it up. Resilience over cleverness. Avoid the big mistakes. So let's quickly review those two really strong golden sentences from this deep dive. You should maybe keep these posted somewhere. First, young people's mistakes are tuition. Old people's mistakes are bankruptcy.
Powerful. And second, the goal is not to beat others, but to avoid losing yourself. We've definitely learned today that the game fundamentally changes around 50. The focus has to shift totally towards defense and stability.
It does. So here's the final, maybe provocative thought we want to leave you with to consider. Take a hard look. What structures or assets in your own life currently rely entirely on your continuous effort, your time, your energy? And then ask, what concrete steps could you maybe take, starting right now, to begin converting some of that effort-based income into more silent, ownership-based cash flow?
Something to really think about. And just another reminder, we have the best crypto referral link waiting for you in the description.
Welcome to subscribe to my channel and like this podcast so that I can continue to make more podcasts.